I was caught up in some legal mess and had to speak with my lawyer urgently. Mr. Sharma, my lawyer, said it was best that I met him at his place. I set off immediately. Sharma had moved to a remote town far away from the city noise to spend his weekends. He did warn me that it was going to be a long drive and that my mobile phone was likely not going to work as I neared his place. It wasn't the best day for travel, as it was raining pretty heavily. I drove on as the rain pummeled the roof of my car. Just as he had warned me, I lost my GPS signal as I neared his place. But I remembered the directions clearly. Even with the raging storm, I had no trouble finding his house. I drove up the dirt road and parked as close to the house as I could, and sprinted to the front porch hoping not to get drenched in the rain. I rang the doorbell and instinctively looked at my phone. Ugh, just one bar? Who is it? A female voice from inside the house returned. Hello, I'm here to meet Mr. Sharma. He's expecting me, I said. A slim girl, probably in her mid-20s, opened the door. She looked rather shabby with her messy hair and grease-stained clothes. I assumed she was the maid. She had a curious expression on her face. The woman was staring at me intently, and after a slight pause replied, Sorry, there's no one called Sharma here. You must have got the wrong address. I really wasn't expecting that. I was pretty sure I had the correct address. He's my lawyer? Sharma? Maybe you know him by his first name, I asked. No, sorry, there's no lawyer here and no Sharma. You are at the wrong address, she replied rather impatiently and hurriedly shut the door. At this point, I was worried that I actually did get the wrong address. I then remembered that I had written down his address in case my GPS crashed. Ma'am, isn't this number 41? I asked. There was a long pause, and the young woman replied from inside the house. Yes, this is 41, but there's no Sharma here. Please, go away. Good grief. Why was she getting so annoyed? I wondered. The house was exactly as Sharma had described it, and yet this young woman was telling me that I had the wrong address. I was confused. There wasn't much I could do. I had a feeling she was standing by the door, staring at me through the peephole. I checked my phone again, wondering if I could ring my lawyer and clear this up, but the mobile signal was too weak. Annoyed as ever, I knew all I could do was get in the car and drive back to the city till my signal improved. The rain was falling heavily, so I sprinted to my car. I quickly unlocked the door and got in, but my car wouldn't start. This day just keeps getting worse. I tried and tried, but it seemed like my battery had died. I was furious and wondered what I could even do. My only option was to ask the crazy lady if I could use her landline to make a quick call for a cab. I rang the doorbell again. Ma'am, I'm sorry, my car broke down. Do you think I could use your phone? It'll only be a minute, I promise. No. Please go away. I can't allow strangers in the house, she replied. I know how this looks, and I don't mean to be a nuisance, but my car really broke down and I have no way of calling a cab. If you don't want me to come inside, can you at least make the call yourself? Please. This will be a huge favor. No. Go away. If you don't leave soon, I'll be calling the cops, she said hysterically. There was no reasoning with this woman. I stood at the porch, wondering what I should even do. I faintly heard her walking away from the door. I decided I was going to wait in my car at least till the rain stopped. As I was about to leave, I noticed a side window that was half open, and something nudged me to sneak a peek. I looked through the window. There was no one in sight. The living room was well furnished, and at the far end was the telephone. The window had no grill, and I have no idea what took over me, but I decided to climb in. It would only be a minute, I told myself. I was just going to make one phone call and leave immediately. I managed to wriggle through the window. My heart was racing. I was trespassing, and if the young woman had seen me, I knew I would be in a real fix. I looked around to make sure I was alone, and slowly tiptoed towards the phone. I picked up the receiver, but it was dead. I picked up the phone gently to check if a cable was loose, but was shocked when I noticed that the cable had been cut. Why would the phone line be cut off like that? I wondered. I realized that something really weird was going on. My heart was thumping heavily now as I wondered what I should do next. The house was silent. There was no sign of the young woman. I heard that mobile signals improve at a higher elevation. Earlier in my car, I had noticed that there was a balcony in the upper floor. If only I could make it up to the upper floor, I thought. My heart still racing, I decided to slowly climb up the stairs. I paused with every step to make sure I didn't draw any attention. I finally got to the bedroom with the balcony. It was dark, but I didn't switch on the light. I slowly walked towards the balcony, but then suddenly tripped over something on the floor. I almost crashed on the dresser, but luckily managed to steady myself. I looked down. There was a man lying flat on his stomach. I could feel my heart beating in my throat. Was he dead? Or just drunk? I gathered the last bit of courage I had and turned him over. His shirt was drenched in blood. He'd been long dead, and to my absolute horror, I realized that it was none other than Mr. Sharma. My head was spinning. I needed air. As I stood up, I heard a giggle. I shot a glance in that direction, and by the door stood the young woman with a wide grin across her face. She stared at me intently, and her tightly clenched fist held a large kitchen knife. I froze in absolute horror for a second, but as she leapt towards me like a banshee with a knife in hand, I dashed towards the balcony. She laughed murderously as she swung her knife towards me and chased me. I slammed the balcony door behind me, but it was a fragile glass door, and I knew it wouldn't hold for long. She threw herself at the door, and the door rattled. I knew I didn't have much time. Right under the balcony was my car. I wondered if I should leap towards the roof of my car and then make a run for it. Before I could even make up my mind, the psycho woman came crashing through the door. For a second, the knife fell on the ground, but she quickly grabbed it and steadied herself. There was a wooden chair behind me. As she leapt towards me, waving her knife in the air, I grabbed the chair and smashed the chair over her head. She fell to the floor in a heap. I pulled out my phone. 3 bars. Finally! I called the cops immediately. I wasn't sure if she would wake up anytime soon, but I didn't want to find out. I rushed downstairs and waited for the cops to arrive. I had never in my life been more relieved to hear a police siren. The woman was taken to the hospital. She did survive. I learned later that she was indeed the maid and helped with the housekeeping. Sharma had been unlucky enough to rent the place. The ghastly details of his murder haunts me to this day. I wish the story ended there, but it gets much, much worse. As the police investigated the property, they uncovered 5 more bodies. Apparently, the maid had been luring and murdering house guests for quite some time. I'm just glad that she'll be spending the rest of her life locked away in a psych ward or prison, far away from causing any more violence. I hope you all really enjoyed the story. If you did, please don't forget to like this video. There'll be a lot more stories coming out, so please subscribe to my channel as well.